Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ewe University. I'm Dr. Kelly. I hope you had a nice week since I last talked to you. I know I did. Last weekend, we had a fish fry at my mother-in-law's house and got together with my husband's family, and that was really fun. The weather was actually decent that day, so we sat outside in the shade and enjoyed the day. The fish, of course, was awesome. And everybody brought some kind of salad or side dish. So there was so much food, but it was so good. Anyway, that's what we did last Sunday. A few weeks ago, I started riding my bike again. I hadn't been on it for like 2 years because, I wasn't able to ride last year because, as a lot of you know, I had some health problems and was feeling pretty crummy. But now that's all taken care of and everything's fine. And so I got back on my bike for the first time about 3 weeks ago. And my neighbor and friend Kathy and I ride together in the mornings. The first day I asked if she had 911 programmed into her phone because I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. But I did, and we went about 11 miles that first day. And then we quickly increased to 15 or 17 miles a day. And so for the past couple days, we've been doing like 22 miles. Now, last week, I did have a little setback. Kathy was out of town, and so I rode by myself one morning, and I had gone about 13 miles when I got a flat tire. And that was a big drag. Fortunately, I was on my way back into town, so I was only about 2 miles out of town and when my tire went flat. So I just walked the rest of the way home. It was still a good workout, and I was lucky it was a beautiful day. Sunny, not too hot. So it could have been way worse. So when I took my bike in to get the tire repaired, I told them just to do a whole tune-up on it. New tires, new tubes, and everything. I got new tape on the handlebars, so now it looks and rides like a new bike. I was going to take it in for a tune-up before I got the flat tire, but hadn't gotten around to it. When that happened, it gave me the motivation to actually take it in. So yeah, I've been riding quite a lot, and some people have asked me to take some video during my rides and show it here so you guys can see what this area looks like. I picked up one of these little sport action cameras from Amazon, and it's a knockoff of the GoPro cameras, but those are like $300, and I really didn't want to spend that much. So I found this one on Amazon for $50, and it has great reviews. And it came with 19 different mounting kits, so you can attach it to your bike handle, your helmet, clip it on your belt, mount it on your car's windshield, a lot of places. It comes with 2 rechargeable batteries and a wireless remote control, so it's really easy to start and stop the video. And it also has a watertight, clear case that you can put it into to take video underwater. So it's really cute and useful little thing. So I attached it to my bike handlebar and have been taking some video of our bike rides in the morning. And I put a few clips together so you can see the scenery of one of the routes that we ride regularly. And you'll see lots of cornfields and soybean fields. Those are the 2 major crops that are grown around here. My general rule is if it's tall, it's corn, and if it's short, it's soybeans, or we call them beans around here. So you'll also see a plant growing along the side of the road on a lot of the roads that we ride, and it has little kind of bluish purple flowers on it. I have always thought that plant was flax, which is kind of what prompted me to do this show about flax and linen production. But come to find out, it's actually chicory. So my whole show about flax was actually inspired by the chicory plant. Anyway, so here's a little bit of our ride the other day. Well, you got to see a little bit of West Central Illinois countryside. It's generally pretty flat here, which is great for bike riding, but there are some hilly spots, nothing too outrageous though. And I should say that all the roads we ride on are very quiet. They don't get much traffic at all. We avoid the busy roads at all costs. So even though it looks like I'm riding down the middle of a highway, it's actually an old highway that doesn't get many vehicles on it. We'll see a car once in a while, but for the most part, we're just out there by ourselves on a lovely bike ride. So I hope you liked seeing this little video clip. Today I'm going to tell you about a project that recently graduated off my needles, and that is a pair of socks. I love these socks, and I love this yarn. It is Manos del Uruguay Alegria in the Colombina colorway. It is white speckled with red, blue, gold, and black. That is my first speckled yarn that I've ever used, and I think it knit up into a really fun fabric. Now this yarn is super soft. I think it's the softest socks that I've ever knit. And most of you guys know already that I just have a vanilla sock formula of my own that I use. I cast on around 68 stitches, do an inch of ribbing. On these I did a 3x1 ribbing, and then I knit about 6 inches in stockinette for the leg, and then do the heel flap, turn the heel, and then knit the foot and Kitchener the toe. I do the whole thing on US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter 9-inch circulars. I'm a fan of the 9-inch circulars. And I do the whole thing on the 9-inch circulars until you get down to closing the toe. Just for closing the toe, I put it on DPNs to do the decreases and to Kitchener the toe shut. So yeah, here's another pair of socks that I might keep, or I haven't decided, I might give them to someone as a gift. This summer has been kind of weird in terms of my reading habits. A lot of you know that I love listening to audiobooks, and I'm usually listening to a book when I'm in the car or when I'm knitting or doing other things. And even though summer is usually everyone's big reading time, when you have time to catch up with fun, light summer reading, this year I kind of did the opposite. For like a month, I just took a break from audiobooks. I don't know why. I guess I just needed a break. But last month, I felt like I wanted to find a new audiobook, so I got on Audible and was looking for something good. And you know that I love historical fiction, and I kind of have this fondness for books about bookshops. So when I came across this book that I'm going to tell you about, it combined those interests, and I had to get it. The book is called The Bookseller's Tale, and the author is Anne Swinfen. Now, The Bookseller's Tale is the first in a series of mysteries set in Oxford during the Middle Ages. It follows the adventures of Nicholas Elliot, a former Oxford University scholar and the owner of a bookshop, as he investigates the strange death of a student in the spring of 1353. Now, this is a time just after the plague or the Black Death, which took the lives of many people. And Nicholas is a widower with 2 children, and he lives with his sister Margaret. Now, one day as he's walking home, Nicholas passes over a bridge and discovers the body of this university student floating in the river. And he quickly figures out that the young man did not die of natural causes. So as Nicholas and his professor friend Jourdain investigate, they discover a plot involving a priceless antique book, an artistic nun, blackmail, and greedy aristocrats. Nicholas and Jourdain establish a motive and uncover two devious villains. Now, I found the story to be entertaining and full of colorful characters. The author does a great job of providing details of the backstory of Nicholas and Margaret concisely and with sensitivity, considering that all the characters in this book are recovering from the plague years where so many died, including Nicholas's wife and Margaret's entire family. The bookshop provides a wonderful backdrop to the story, and Swinfen generously provides fascinating tidbits of information about the early days of bookmaking before the invention of the printing press. I especially like the scenes about how parchment was made, as well as the process of, replicating and creating books by hand. I also enjoyed the intellectual aspects of the university system in those days and the rivalry between the townspeople and the academics, which I think sometimes exists even today. Swinfen did a beautiful job of describing the scenes. I felt like I could imagine every place, whether in the busy streets of town, in the cottages, in dark alleys at night, or on the roads out of town. I also looked up a map of Oxford so I could kind of follow along with where the characters were located. She uses real places and real street names, so much of the time you could actually find the place on a map. To be fair though, I thought the ending was a little weak. The resolution of the murder case should have been a little more climactic than it was. It was a little mild, and it happened really fast and then kind of went on to what happened afterward. Throughout the book, the plot meanders a bit, but eventually everything is all tied up nicely. Beyond those kind of minor annoyances, I did enjoy the book, and I finished it wanting more. So I'm actually currently reading the second book in the series. Now, overall, I thought the book was well researched. It had well-rounded characters and a narrative that moved from place to place in a tidy fashion. I gave the book 4 stars, and the reader, Philip Batley, was excellent. He gets 5 stars. And again, that book is entitled The Bookseller's Tale by Anne Swinfen. Okay, today in the classroom, we are going to explore the facts about flax. And I'm going to talk about the process of producing linen yarn from the flax plant, which is quite an involved process. So first, the flax plant. It is an annual plant, meaning that it only lives for one growing season. After it's planted, it reaches maturity and is ready to harvest in about 3 months. It can grow in a variety of climates, but it flourishes in cool, moist environments with a lot of organic material in the soil. Flax usually doesn't require much watering or attention while it's growing. It gets to around 4 feet tall with bluish-green leaves and pale blue flowers. Flax is used mainly for its seeds and its fiber. The problem is that there's no cultivation method that allows us to capture both seeds and fiber maximally. To obtain the highest quality seeds, which are made into flaxseed oil, the plants must be harvested after they mature. But to obtain the highest quality fibers, the flax must be harvested before it fully matures. So as a result, 2 distinct types of flax plants are found today. The linseed variety is grown primarily to extract the flaxseed's highly nutritious oil. The second variety is simply called flax and is taller and more slender than the linseed variety. It is cultivated in order to extract the long fibers from inside the stem of the plant, which are then spun and woven into linen fabric. So the taller the flax plant, the longer the fibers. And today I'll be focusing on the flax, which is grown specifically for its fiber. Flax fibers are considered bast fibers. Bast fibers are those collected from the inner core of the plant stem. Fabrics made from these fibers are typically very strong and durable. Now, besides linen, other bast fibers include hemp, ramie, and rattan. Because it is a plant fiber, flax is composed mainly of cellulose. It's a medium weight fiber, usually with a naturally light tan color, with a fiber length between 2 and 36 inches. Flax has been used since ancient times for producing things like clothing, twine, painting canvases, bookbinding thread, towels, sailcloth, and more. Recent discoveries of dyed and knotted flax fibers in the prehistoric cave in the Republic of Georgia show that the flax plant was already in use by humans from an unbelievably early date, as early as the Stone Age. And these flax fibers were preserved for over 34,000 years. And as such, these are the oldest human-made textiles ever discovered. At an ancient excavation site in Turkey, archaeologists have discovered a piece of 9,000-year-old woven linen cloth attached to a bone tool. The linen was presumably wound around the handle of the tool to give a better grip. And it is thought that this linen was woven on a crude loom consisting of only 4 sticks and woven in a basket weaving style that was already well established by that time. Now, intentional cultivation of the wild flax plant likely began sometime around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago in North Africa and the Middle East. In ancient cities like Babylon, linen fabric was rare because, as you'll see in a few minutes, the production of linen is extremely labor intensive. Therefore, only individuals in the highest elite classes, like priests and royalty, could afford clothing and other things made out of linen. Some of the earliest writings that have been discovered and deciphered tell of thrones draped in the finest linen. The Egyptians prized linen fabric because it's lightweight and wicks moisture away from sweaty skin. Thus, it became the favored material for clothing, from the coarse linen garments worn by slaves to the most intricate, finely woven linen worn by the high priests and royalty. And the whiter the fabric, the more pure it was believed to be. Priests were permitted to dress only in fine, bleached linen. Egyptian mummies were wrapped with linen fabric, as it was the symbol of light, purity, beauty, and abundance of wealth. When the mummy of King Tut was discovered in 1922, portions of the linen wrappings that were covering his remains were almost perfectly preserved. Now, in later European mythology, the flax plant was associated with the goddess of weaving. And in medieval times, it was widely believed that flax flowers had protective powers against witchcraft, black magic, and sorcery. Household items made of hand-woven linen became status symbols of the elite. Napkins, towels, and table linens were woven to commemorate marriages and other special events. Linen was relied upon in fabric production until the late 19th century, when it was replaced by cotton, which was easier to process and cheaper to produce. Now, today, flax fiber is mainly grown in Belgium, Eastern Europe, and China. So let's turn to the topic of how flax is turned into linen. And this is a complicated and lengthy process. First, flax grown for its fiber is ready to be harvested prior to seed germination. The stems of the flax plant are pulled up with the root system intact rather than cut off at the base. This maximizes the fiber quality because the flax fibers run all the way through the stalk and into the roots, so including the roots will increase the length of the fiber produced. Although machine harvesting of flax is now common, the highest quality linens are still made from flax plants that were pulled out of the earth by hand. Fabric made from hand-harvested flax is finer, more supple, and more highly prized than fabric made from flax that is machine harvested. Next, during the rippling process, the seeds are removed from the top of the stems. Then comes the task of separating the bast fibers from the woody parts of the stalk so they can be processed and spun into yarn. This is achieved by a process called retting, or literally rotting. There are many ways to accomplish the retting process, but usually it is done by prolonged exposure of the plant stalk to moisture. Water retting is the most widely used practice and produces the highest quality fibers. This is where you submerge the flax stalks in water for a period of time. It is best accomplished in stagnant waters like ponds and bogs. The more stagnant the water source, the more abundant the bacteria and the faster the retting process. Flax bundles that are weighed down in ponds generally rot in anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks. The warmer the water temperature, the faster the retting process. Because the water is stagnant and bacteria are abundant, water retting in ponds and bogs is pretty stinky. Water retting produces the nicest fibers, though, and results in a desirable light-colored fiber. Dew retting is another method of retting. Now, flax stalks are spread out evenly across the field, where the combination of sunshine, air, dew, and rain causes fermentation, which dissolves much of the stem within 2 to 3 weeks. Dew retting takes longer than water retting, and the fibers are typically lower in quality than water-retted fibers. This process also results in a silver or gray colored fiber. Tank retting takes place in large tubs filled with water. The flax stalks are soaked for a week or so to complete the retting process. Now, after retting, the flax is put through 3 different mechanical processes. The first is called breaking, where the bundles of flax are crushed and the woody material in the stalks is broken up. This is done by beating on the stalks with a flax brake, a double-hinged set of boards on legs, or by passing the stalks through rollers that crush the woody parts of the stalk. Next comes scutching, where the fibers are vigorously whacked with a wooden blade to remove the remaining woody material from the stalk. There are a variety of mechanical methods to accomplish the scutching process, including a scutching wheel, where the wooden blades are mounted like spokes on a wheel, and when turned, they beat against the fibers. And then there are scutching mills, where a fast-moving stream turns a water wheel, which powers a type of scutching wheel. The last step in fiber processing is hackling, where it is combed by drawing the fibers through a set of sharp tines. Now, first you would use a wider spaced comb, and then gradually using finer combs until the fibers are all separated and lined up. During the hackling process, the shorter fibers, called tow, are removed, leaving only the long fibers, called line, which can be 3 feet long. The tow fibers are made into things like ropes and heavy canvas, things that are rougher. The line is spun up into fine linen. Flax fibers are traditionally spun by hand using a distaff. A distaff is a long pole onto which the flax fibers are hung. This helps keep the fibers organized and prevents them from turning into a tangled mess. Spinning flax involves twisting the strands to form yarn. The fibers are often dampened during spinning by dipping the fingers into water, which helps keep the flax strands from escaping the twist and creates a very smooth yarn. Flax is very strong and doesn't require much twisting, just enough to hold the thread together. And the resulting yarn and subsequent fabric is called linen. With all the time and effort that went into the production of anything made from flax, it is easy to understand why the family linens were so cherished. Now today, flax is processed by chemical and automated mechanical means. But in some parts of the world, some growers still prepare flax in the old-fashioned way. Now let's talk about linen yarn. Linen yarn has excellent strength. In fact, it is the strongest of any of the plant fibers. It's also even stronger when wet. It's more absorbent than cotton, absorbing moisture quickly and also drying quickly. These properties make it a good choice for clothing worn in hot weather because the quick drying has a cooling effect on the skin. Linen is completely washable, although some garments may require dry cleaning because of the finish applied to the fabric. It's resistant to the application of heat and can withstand ironing temperatures of 450 degrees or Fahrenheit or 232 degrees Celsius. It has no problems with static electricity or pilling. As far as downsides, there are only a few. Linen is less durable than cotton. It's not very resistant to abrasion, and it doesn't have any elasticity, which can make linen yarn hard to knit with. And if you have any experience at all with linen fabric, you know that it wrinkles very badly. And lastly, it is vulnerable to mildew and insect damage. Silverfish love to munch on it. Linen yarn is readily available for purchase from a number of vendors. Sometimes the yarn is a blend of linen and something else, like cotton. Cotton is a common blend with linen. And some linen yarns are made of pure linen. In fact, I recently purchased some linen yarn from Quince & Company, and this is their fingering weight base called Sparrow, and it is spun in Italy out of flax from Belgium. And Belgium is known for its super high quality flax. Each skein is 168 yards and 50 grams. And I got 7 skeins in the hopes of making a tank top. So I'm eager to cast on this tank top, but you know that I'm a slow knitter, so don't be expecting to see the finished product next week. Oh, and the colorway of this yarn is Viburnum, which is this dusty pink color. Now, I haven't knit with linen yarn for quite a while, but one thing to know about it is that it doesn't necessarily feel super soft when you're working with it. In fact, it can be quite stiff feeling as opposed to the soft merino yarn that you might be used to knitting with. Now, this Quince yarn is really a nice linen yarn. It's a little bit stiff, but not as bad as some linen yarns I've felt. However, once linen yarn is knit up and then washed, it turns into a lovely, soft fabric. And I'm sure the same thing is true for weaving with it. Just give it a chance and you'll probably love it after washing it. So, have you ever worked with linen yarn? Did you knit with it, weave it? What did you think of your experience with linen? Leave your comments about linen below so we can have a little conversation about it. And of course, I always hope that you learn something new in every show, so let me know about that as well. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about linen, its history, and how it is produced from the flax plant. Again, I invite you to leave your questions and comments about today's topic in the comment section below. You can also leave a comment if you have an idea for what you'd like to see on future episodes, or if you'd like to see a product tested. I always love to hear from you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. For next week, I thought I would talk about some things that are really in style right now, and those are pom-poms, tassels, and fringe. I thought I would demonstrate how to make these embellishments for your knitting or crocheting or weaving projects, and show you some tools that you can use to create them. So I hope you'll join me next time. And until then, stay smart and have a sparkly week.